Hey everyone, welcome to the macOS focused portion of the course. The other videos in this course were all made about 3.5 years ago. That was before I started using a Mac, both personally and for my own development. And so I do find those other videos to still be helpful. They cover more generic things you do on any operating system, like using an editor or using your terminal. I'm going to share tips that have helped me, but remember to identify what you do most frequently or what are the most costly behaviors, because those are the things you'd want to improve your efficiency on. This should give you some inspiration though. And all the programs that I'm about to cover can be used for free. Let's jump in. As developers, we tend to type a lot, but sometimes you don't want to type. Maybe there's difficult text or there's long text. That's where text expansions can help out. And I'm using Espanso here. For this example, I'm going to type out, I had a convo, I press space and it turns into conversation about the 'I infrastructure on today's date. This works anywhere on your operating system. So I happen to be typing into VS Code right now, but it would also work in my terminal or in the browser. So here's some examples. You saw me use it for long words like 'I for infrastructure. I use it for emojis as well. I don't like using the emoji picker when I can just type something out like this. I use it for dates and times, and I sometimes even combine them into dates and times. There are things like these helpers that I have. So for example, you're searching for Rust code and you only want to search on GitHub. You can put this into your browser and it'll only return GitHub results. I use it for typos as well. And then finally, you don't actually need a leading character here, this apostrophe. You can just make your expansions however you want. You could have several leading characters if you want to. And in the cheat sheet, you'll find a link to a GitHub repo where I've got all of the examples that I use. So you can see on the left bar here, they're all the date time ones that I use. For OS level automation, one of the tools that I use is called Hammerspoon. It has a set of APIs to do anything from sending keystrokes to mouse clicks to actually interacting with windows on your operating system. One of the main things that I use it for is for quick window navigation and launching apps. You'll see this block of Lua that I have here. Alt 1, for example, will go to Chrome. Alt 2 will go to Finder. Alt 3 will go to VS Code. And so this sort of mimics what I was used to on Windows. One of the other scripts that I wrote here is called Highlight Window. When I went to Finder, you might have noticed there's this blue bar that sort of fades out at the top. Same thing if I go to VS Code right now, there's that blue bar fading out and then a persistent blue bar that's left. This is not really for efficiency. This is just to show you that you can do more with Hammerspoon than just send keystrokes. You can have it draw on arbitrary parts of the screen or send you a notification when something happens. Another tool that I use for OS automation is built right into macOS, and it is the Shortcuts app, actually called Shortcuts, which makes it very difficult to search for things online. But here I have a script, and it's an Apple script that will type out the word reference in parentheses and then send some keystrokes to turn it into a link. So what that looks like here is I could say something like check out Hammerspoon and then press my shortcut, and without my hands being on the keyboard, it typed out reference and made it into a link. And now I could go to the documentation from there. So I'll include this reference script in the cheat sheet that I have. You could also do something like this through Hammerspoon if you want. The next app I want to show you is called Rectangle, and I use it for laying out windows. I happen to use the Control-Alt prefix and then arrow keys for any of these things, but it's pretty simple. You can use it to make windows take up half the screen. You can have it take up a third of the screen. You can have it take up 2/3 of the screen if you want. And so when you combine this with something like the window activation from Hammerspoon, I could do something like use Alt 5 to go to my terminal and then make it take up half the screen, then go back to VS Code with Command Tab or with Alt 3, and then make it take up the other half of the screen. And so this is something I was used to from Windows. You can also use spaces or desktops if you want to use that on your operating system. It's easy to take screenshots on macOS, but then usually you want to do something to them before you share them with somebody or put them in documentation, maybe highlight something or otherwise annotate it. For that, I use Shottr. So as an example, let's say I want to get someone to go to this specific submenu in VS Code. I would use the print screen key on my keyboard, just like I normally would, but now we're in Shottr where we can start annotating it. So we could do something simple here, like just add a rectangle around it and maybe some arrows pointing at it. Or we could press C and use the auto incrementing counter here to say exactly where the person should go and naturally draw their attention in that direction. We could blur out other sections of the UI. We could actually type something here, click that thing, or we could just arbitrarily draw and it'll actually expand the canvas around what we were trying to highlight there. This is much easier than using an external program for this because it's all in one. And as soon as I close this, it'll be on my clipboard and I could paste it wherever I need it to be. And that's it for this addendum video. What we covered was text expansions with Espanso, OS level automation with Hammerspoon and shortcuts, window layout with rectangle, and screenshot annotation with Shottr. Again, this is just a cross section of what I find important, what I use day to day, but you should identify your needs and try to apply the same sorts of techniques that we covered here. Hope you learned something. Thank you very much for watching.